support children's academic and lifelong well-being by directing and supporting the EOEL for an effective, coordinated, high-quality early learning system from prenatal to kindergarten entry.
Thank you, Bill. Once again, this is what we need to keep in mind as we have our deliberations for today's meeting. I will do a roll call of attendees. Lonnie Al. Lonnie Al. Good. People can hear me because I'm sure I saw it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Aaron Henderson.
Did you say, sorry, if you said Aaron, it's here.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Iolani.
Aloha, I'm here.
Thank you. Ben? Ben Naki?
I'm here. Hopefully you can hear me.
Thanks, Ben. Bob Peters is here. Ali Sarsoni is absent. Sharon Shitinoki is absent as well. Mari Urihara. Mari? Carrie,
Here.
thank you. Melody,
Here,
go back through those we missed. Lonnie Al, Justina,
Present.
thank you. Okay, Dana Luca,
Here.
thank you. Rochelle Mahoy. Rochelle? Steve Schatz is away. Matt Shim,
Here, Bob.
thank you, Matt. We do have a quorum so that we can proceed with business.
Bob Peters, I'm here. Lonnie Al.
Oh, thank you, Lonnie. We have a quorum so that business can function as intended. First item up for consideration are the minutes from the May 12th meeting. The board will entertain a motion to approve. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
This is Ben. I'll motion.
Thanks, Ben. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Anyone have suggested revisions? Hearing none, I will do a roll call vote to approve the May 12th meeting minutes as presented. Lonnie,
Approve.
thank you. Justina,
Aye.
Erin,
Aye.
Iolani,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
I vote aye. Carrie,
Aye.
Melody,
approve.
Mari, have you joined us? All right, the minutes from the May 12th meeting have been approved as presented. Thank you. At this point in the meeting, we will hear any public comments that people wish to offer. If you or a member of the public and would like to offer comments or testimony of any sort related to the agenda items, there's a 2-minute time limit per speaker. And would you indicate in the chat that you wish to provide some comments? Jordana, anything in the chat? All right, we see no one wishing to provide comments at this point in the meeting. There will be another opportunity toward the end of the meeting if members of the public have comments they wish to share at that particular time. We're now at item 4 on the agenda, which is to hear the updates from the Executive Office on Early Learning. And Yuko, I'll turn it over to you and your staff.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. We'll be giving some updates from the Executive Office on Early Learning. And so I'm going to turn it over to different members of our team first. And then I will follow up after my team members. So first will be Jordana.
Hi, everyone. Just a quick few updates. So right now, currently, departments have been meeting with Governor Ige and his team to review bills. The purpose of these meetings are to discuss any potential impacts of the bills on departments, whether departments would like to veto or support or sign. And then just some legislative deadlines to note. So bills sent to the governor after April 19th will become law if he signs or neither signs but doesn't veto by July 12th. And if he intends to veto a bill, he must inform the legislature by June 27th and then deliver the veto by July 12th. If the bills are not vetoed, if it is vetoed, it does not become law unless the legislature overrides the veto in a special session by a 2/3 vote in each chamber. And that must be convened at or before noon on July 12th. Does anyone have any questions?
Any conversations with the governor, any indications of where things are headed?
Yeah, so we had our meeting with the governor. There were no bills that specifically related to EOEL this session, but we did discuss with him some of the bills that related to the field of which we were in support of. So we shared that with governor, but deferred to the departments that are tasked with that authority.
But I assume you got no indication from him. No, where things were headed.
No, I think we'll get that indication once he signs.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments or questions for Jordana? If not, does that conclude your portion? Thank you, Jordana. Yuko?
Should I give the updates on the early childhood, the pre-K? Okay, so here's some data from Colleen. She's not present today, but here you can see how many total applications we've received for public pre-kindergarten and how many were approved. And when I asked why some, not all of them were approved, it either had to do with meeting criteria or completing all aspects of the application. So the other question that I asked is, if our maximum enrollment is 405, why do we have a wait list? And the response to that is that there may be more students in an already populated area who also want to attend EOEL pre-K. So the wait list is not necessarily applicable to all spaces which have EOEL classrooms. And so you can see the data from our EOEL public pre-K here as of May 31st, 2022. One thing I was speaking to Chair Peters about is eventually after the selections are made, that we will identify title, name of school, how many seats are available, how many seats are filled, and then what is the wait list by area. And so that is something that I will be presenting eventually. Does anybody have any questions about our public pre-kindergarten at this time? Okay, I'm going to move on to our next space. Alohi. Do you see if Alohi is
Oh.
on?
Yeah, she's on the, okay, she was muted.
Did it work?
Yes.
I can hear you now.
Great. Okay. Aloha again, everybody. For ELB, I wanted to make sure that we shared that 2022 renewal grant funding opportunity from the Administration of Children and Families for PDGB 5 will be coming up very soon. We still have not gotten the official announcement, but we are looking that announcement will be dropping between August and September, even in possibly July, but we're really looking at August and September at looking at the new PDGB 5 application. The application will only be for states that have received an initial grant, but have not received another renewal grant. So Hawaii is one of those category of states. We are continuing with our Hawaii PDGB B5 TA plan. One main component of this TA plan is our system visualization workshops, and that we do have a Hawaii team a part of. So those folks that are in that team, I will be reaching out as we get closer to our third workshop and to kind of prep us for July 21st. And then we're looking at our last meeting in September. Is there any questions in regards to any of these updates or other items?
Thank you, Alohi.
Thank you.
And Chris?
Hello, everyone. So just really quickly, many of you know that during the previous 2 years, our enrollment in Head Start and early Head Start programs has been decreased. And that was okay with the Office of Head Start. There was a lot of flexibility given in terms of meeting funded enrollment. But now, as of September 2022, grantees will need to be meeting full funded enrollment. And so the Head Start and early Head Start programs are actively recruiting for eligible pregnant women, infants, and children birth to 5. So if you know of any families who you think would benefit from Head Start, early Head Start comprehensive services, please refer them to us and we will get them out to the appropriate programs. As of April 2022, as a way for the Office of Head Start to cast a wider net for families who could be eligible for Head Start and early Head Start services, they are now including SNAP beneficiaries as part of the public assistance definition. And so now, in addition to TANF and SSI families who are receiving SNAP benefits are now eligible also to receive Head Start, early Head Start services, and just need to show some kind of documentation that they are a SNAP beneficiary for the Head Start programs to then be able to enroll them. So this will help expedite enrolling more families into the programs. I met with the DHS BESD administrators on June 3rd to discuss this new announcement about SNAP beneficiaries. And so we are working now on some strategies, both at state level and at the community level, to be able to inform more of the DHS workers so that they can be referring their families to Head Start and early Head Start. We were happy to have a meet and greet with Yuko just this past Thursday at our monthly directors meeting, and Yuko got to meet the Head Start directors or assistant directors and hear a little bit about their programs on the different islands. So she could get a sense of the breadth of services and kinds of programs that we're operating here in Hawaii. We're excited to be able to share, and we'll be getting this out to our ELB members as well as state partners, that we have finally finalized our early Head Start state policy agenda, which is part of a national Early Head Start Rising campaign to really elevate early Head Start and infant toddler services in general across all states. So Hawaii was one that worked together, the Collab Office and the association worked together to develop 2 companion documents to really elevate what some of the challenges are for both early Head Start and the infant toddler field in general. around workforce, facilities, licensing requirements, et cetera. And then some recommendations that we proposed as well. So we're very excited about that opportunity to be able to advocate more for our early Head Start programs here in Hawaii. And finally, just as usual, I've been trying to conduct one-to-one check-ins with the different directors on the different islands to continue to identify issues and concerns that I might be able to help intervene with and to help connect with state partners to do some problem resolution around those issues. So that's kind of what we wanted to share. If we have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I think everyone, Chris, is excited. Carrie put a note in the chat about the SNAP benefits. So thank you for sharing that with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I'd also like to provide an update on our office plan and our priorities. So the first thing is that I wanted to say thank you for meeting with me, to all of the board members who were able to schedule and work out something with me over since our past meeting. And I look forward to meeting with everybody else who has me, some of them in the next week and next few months. So thank you very much. It was really nice to go out and meet, for example, Ben out at his facility and his area to learn more about the program. And it was also really nice to be able to go down to high school who has an early Head Start location on their school campus. And again, thank you to everybody who's going to be meeting with me from the board in the next week and up until the next couple of months. So right now I'm in the Area 60 space, if you recall from my interview section. So this is my Discover, Wonder, Ideate phase, where we're going to start to begin to formulate priorities. And so when you look at where we are right now, we are working with our office's leadership team to begin to have conversations about our way forward, also expanding my points of contact to people who are also involved in EOEL activities, maybe in direct or indirect ways. And this is the work that we're going to be working on in the near future. And so here are some of the different individuals not necessarily connected to our board directly, and also national webinars that I've kind of jumped onto to learn more about the work of early childhood. So one thing that I've been going through is, you know, when I read about the early learning system, and then I speak with people and I come back to learn more about, come back to the statute, talk to people, come back, different things really start to pop out. And so really thinking about where are we right now? What are we charged to do in terms of our purpose? And then what next? And so that's the space that I think that we are sitting in right now. And going along with the theme about discover, wonder, and ideate, these are just not meant to be answered here. These are just things that we are going to have conversations with our leadership team, but here are some of them. And these wonderings all came from conversations with the different people or groups whom I've been able to have the privilege to meet with. So, for example, should the EOEL create administrative rules for statutes? Where are teachers permitted to work? What clarity might be needed to make pre-plus contracts more attractive to potential providers? What can the EOEL do to secure more federal funds? What should the ELB and EOEL propose to the School Facilities Board? In what ways are we connecting with and being a connecting agent for our general population? And how do we know if we are making a difference for each child and family? And so our leadership team is working to create a meeting structure where initially I want to meet with our team at least once a week, very specific topics for an hour, so that we can move forward and hopefully come forward with something to our early learning board soon. And so I know back in 2020, there was this presentation to the board. And because we are going to soon be revisiting this type of planning again, I'm wondering what should the EOEL consider as priorities to include in our way forward? And that is a question that I'm going to pause now to see what members of our board may want to express at this time.
Yuko, this is Carrie. I just have a question. Can you refresh our memory about where we are with the current EOEL strategic plan? I don't remember what years that was developed for, and if you're looking at revisiting that current plan, or if you're thinking about starting from scratch and identifying new priorities moving forward, that would help.
Okay, thank you for pointing that out. And you are correct. There are new members on the board, and I did not resend this out prior, so I apologize. I'll send that out again. But essentially what I understand is that EUL had created a plan about what they feel they should prioritize at the time. And so whether we take items from this 2020 plan or just scrap it and start thinking about something new, how about let's start there, because everybody may not actually have this in front of them at the time.
So, Yuko, am I understanding correctly? You're inviting board members to share with you what priorities they have on their mind that they would like you to consider.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Whether they are from the plan or elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying. Yuko, I think one thing for me as a board member that I would like the EOEL to focus on is getting sharp clarity on their role in coordinating the early childhood state plan and what's required, what additional supports the office might need to make that happen. I often don't have clarity around the early childhood state plan, the early learning board priorities, and the EOEL priorities, and how those connect.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yuko, this is Melody. I think definitely a priority has to be workforce development.
Thank you.
I think I would share another one around prenatal to age 3 focus. And that obviously looks at resources necessary of all kinds, whether it's personnel or funding or access. But that needs to be a part of our consideration going forward.
I'll chime in too. I think I second what Mel's saying around increasing our workforce and workforce development opportunities. EOEL, I mean, even housed within EOEL, there's several of our big public funding streams coming in for early learning. And so both thinking about the public pre-K, but also since the Head Start Collaborative Office is housed there, how to make sure that we're maximizing those spaces available for kids. And helping, I know it's not necessarily in the wheelhouse, but for the programs like our charter school programs, you talked about pre-plus earlier, and some of the other, kind of public dollars that could go for childcare and pre-K, how to maximize those would be a great role for EOEL.
And then you go, just to chime into what Justina said, I think we should be, when we say workforce, if we can just put clarity around that, around what we mean. So if it's center-based teacher and support workforce, I think that that's helpful to at least be clear. Or are we also talking about family childcare or FCILs or home visiting, early intervention?
I just want to add, just ensuring that the office has a pulse on the community, what families with young children are needing, and making sure we understand, or the office understands what's the need out there, and getting them, parents, engaged in those conversations.
I'd like to piggyback a little bit on Bob's comment regarding the prenatal age 3, just because I'm in the capacity and resources subcommittee. Perhaps also to take a look and see if internally inside of the EOEL, if you guys are set up in a way to support those initiatives and those efforts in the community, as well as the work that you guys are currently doing. I think that would be something to consider at this time.
Is there anything in the chat? Okay, well, thank you so much for offering these ideas, and we will definitely consider them. And if you have something that you would like to share, and you are a member of our board, you can feel free to let me know later if it comes to mind later. So I also wanted to update the board that right now we do have a communications specialist 2 position that's open right now through June 30th. And we are going to be posting our other 2 positions for our office of a business manager and an administrative services assistant. And those are both going to be posted on June 15th. If you go to our website under employment opportunities, it can take you right to the space where you can apply for the position. I'd also like to highlight again our website, and I wanted to thank Kevin for working with me. We're trying to reorganize our website so that it speaks to the work of our office and what do we value and whom are we trying to support. So while we are trying to coordinate the early childhood system, the answer is for whom. And we believe right now at the top, you can see that it says we support early childhood. So we've chosen right now to organize it under we value children and families. We support our workforce and we connect our community. And then you can see that it's updated with the board meeting so that members of the public know that they're invited to this space. And then off on the right side, we will rotate this out with some of the things that are more pertinent and relevant at the current time. So right now we have the health standards at the top. Our EOEL public pre-K is opening, still is open for applications at this time. And then of course, employment opportunities. And if there is anybody else who is connected to early learning that is also wanting to try to recruit any people to work for them in the field of early learning or early childhood, feel free to let me know. And I don't have a problem posting that opportunity for our general public. So you have another space to communicate that. Going along with our workforce, we're trying to kind of break it out so that providers and educators have a space. Again, this is an evolving site at this time. And then of course, if you're choosing to go into the work, public service loan forgiveness program. So as we find out resources that are available to children, families, our workforce, our community, we're going to try to keep our site up and relevant and as a resource for folks. And so again, this is what I had presented a while ago, but what is my vision of impact? And so personally for our office and for our system, and it is something that we are working towards in terms of communicating and moving forward with ethical decision-making, maximizing our resources, both human and financial, and creating and growing our relationships, and also making sure that we're moving on our priorities with urgency because our kids and our families matter, and also remaining solution focused with, of course, our kids in mind. And so that is the end of the update from our office. And if anybody has any questions at this time, you may ask me anything.
Yuko, just wondering, you've shared the interactions with board members and obviously they're reaching out, which we all appreciate greatly. Is there anything else you need from the board at this point to support your transition?
I think I would just ask to continue to have, I guess, to continue to be invited into spaces or new spaces with which you participate or you are a part of that maybe I have not learned or been a part of before. It's been very exciting for me to go out and about, to see spaces, to meet people, to meet their teams, to see their work in action. And while we've had one-on-ones with these folks here, and also I've been a part of many other teams with other members of our board, I'm still open and I still would love to see the work in action.
Okay, great. And thank you to board members for reaching out to Yuko and introducing her to both your setting and the organizations to which you represent. And obviously she's eager to continue those connections. Any other comments or questions for Yuko at this point? Well, hearing none, we'll move on to the subcommittee reports. And the first subcommittee that will be reporting back to the group today is the systems mapping group. And I'm going to turn it over to Carrie and Lonnie. Materials were sent to you, which I hope you had a chance to review before the meeting. And we have action to be taken on both the budget and the financing plans of this subcommittee. So Carrie and Lonnie, I will turn it over to the both of you.
All right, thank you, Bob. And thank you everybody for your input on this mapping, these mapping projects. I want to thank Ben and Lonnie and Alohi, Kim, Barbara, Jordana, Carol, and Adele for helping to contribute to the thinking around this. And also to our Department of Human Services partners as well. Dana, Luca, thank you for meeting with us and kind of talking through next steps. So we want to, I think, if I'm clear, Bob, we need to vote on the budget, correct? That's what we're trying to do today.
We need to vote on the budget, and
Yeah.
I think we also need to take action on approving the subcommittee's request to seek private funding to support the budget. All right,
Okay.
so a walk through the budget, I think, would be really helpful to everybody, if that's part of your plan, I hope.
Sure. Let me first give some updates from our last early learning board meeting from the committee, and then we'll go through the budget. So here are some updates. We need to share the proposed budget with ELB and get a vote on that. We are looking at ways of reducing costs on the overhead for Center on the Family, which we'll discuss. We had a chance to meet with DHS and Patch to hear about the consumer education website and how it fits and how it can fit with the AUW 2-in-1 Kiki Central and Center on the Family mapping efforts. So it was really nice to see what the consumer ed website will be able to do. And then to hear from Patch too about what they're envisioning for maps. So we have everybody at the table. And then Kiki Central and AUW 2-in-1 are working closely together with Site Savvy to create the pullout maps for early childhood programs and services. So Site Savvy is a national entity that does this for 2-in-1s. So when you want to, let's say you're part of the Kupuna community, what they'll set up is Kupuna specific resources and services as pullouts, and Site Savvy does all that back end. So we had a chance to meet with Site Savvy as well. So we have a lot of next steps, but before I go into that, let me share the budget. So this is what we're looking at after multiple conversations. Is in year one, funding a coordinator for this work. All of us on the committee have full-time plus jobs. And so we really need somebody concentrated and working on this, especially if we're already 6 months behind. And if we want to reach our goal by the end of this year, we really need somebody concentrated on this project. For map design and plus platform, it's going to cost about $40,000 for the initial build out. And then in year two, it'll be just $10,000 for maintenance and upkeep. Patch, we found out, does not need funding for their mapping. They actually have funding already. But so we count that as in kind for this project. The Aloha United Way subscription is $6,000 for the year, $500 a month. And that's to make sure that we have all the data that we need on the back end so that we know what programs and services our families and our providers are searching for. And we can request that data at any time. Marketing and outreach, one thing we know is that AUW 2-in-1 is underutilized. There's been a definite uptick since the pandemic, but still not enough people know about it. And especially in our neighbor islands, we need further outreach. And so we did put in $10,000 into marketing and outreach. So that's for the 2-in-1 Kiki Central costs. For the Center on the Family, and I don't think Barbara's on the call because she's teaching, I think. She had texted me earlier. These are the costs for year one and year two. From our discussions, these funds can wait a little bit because they still have funds from their current contract. And we are exploring ways to reduce this particular line item, number 19. They have a 36% overhead for indirect. which is really high. And Barbara has some ideas on how to reduce that. So we are exploring that as we speak. So what we're hoping that the Early Learning Board will do is vote to approve this budget and then vote to approve that we move forward with this, the part up here on AUW Keiki Central project. And then we will come back for a second request for Center on the Family when we can finalize that indirect piece. I think the committee, we reviewed all of the different maps. So DHS, Consumer Ed website, Patch, 2-in-1 Keiki Central, and Center on the Family. And we feel that there's a definite need for all four. The good thing is that they can all easily be connected and linked, not on the back end, but linked on the front end. So it should be pretty seamless for users. So are there any questions or comments? Ben, Lonnie, am I missing anything?
Just the timeline tip. Are you gonna do that next?
Oh yeah, timeline tick. So we were supposed to have this done June 30th. We are not going to have this done June 30th. And part of that is we appreciate we have a process to go through with the Early Learning Board for voting. And so if we want to get this done, I did adjust the time up here, Lonnie, to December 2022. We're confident we could get this done in 6 months if we can move forward with securing the funds. If we have to wait, we're going to have to push the timeline back.
That's why I wanted you to say it. Thank you, Carrie.
Carrie, I'm just a question, not about the numbers at all, but and the mapping coordinator, is that person going to be hired by Keiki Central?
So what the proposed plan is right now is to have these funds and contracts. ECAS will do all of the admin on the contracts.
Okay.
None of those funds would go to ECAS staff. It's all just like a way to bring funds through and then have our admin do the administrative burden on the contracts. And we'd have to pool funds. So that's another, if we do this, there's several funders that would contribute, not just one funder. So we'd have to pool those funds and then do the subcontract. So the subcontracts would go to AUW. They would go to a coordinator. And then I think we're going to, I'm not sure about the marketing and outreach, if that would have to be a third contract or if that would go just directly to 2-in-1 to do their own. We would need to figure that out, where those funds would go. And then the Center on the Family funds, if those get approved, those all go to the university.
Right. Any questions for Carrie and the committee with regard to the budget?
Yeah, and then after we vote, I do want to go through some next steps, just so you know kind of where we are with the next 3 months.
Let's, you want to make a formal motion, Carrie?
I mean, Justina has a question first.
Thanks, Carrie. Yeah, I did have a question. I was wondering if you had a sense of, given the total cost, like what percent are you, one question is there any state funds that might be available for any of these line items? I don't know that it would be for all, but how, is there a percentage you're looking at raising from the private, like private dollars or funds, or are we anticipating that all of it would need to be from private funding for this first 2 years?
A good question. I would say for the first year, we should probably mobilize the philanthropic dollars just because we can get those funds quicker and get going. And then look for those opportunities for matched funds with public sources for year 2 would be my goal, or our goal. Do you think that's reasonable?
I do think so. And I guess it's on my mind. Is there any other, these do seem like discrete items, but then I mean, is there any relation to other work going on, or could we package it in some way, like marketing and outreach, some of the work that's happening, commit to Keiki or anything? I'm not sure, but it'd be interesting to think about if there's any maybe economies of scale.
think there might be after year one. I think these initial investments are tech investments. Like there's some of the aside from the coordinator, some of the technical pieces. It's a good question. I know when we've talked with other partners across the nation, usually these types of efforts are funded using philanthropic and public dollars. And oftentimes the different state departments contribute a small percentage because it is advancing and supporting their programs and services as well. And so it would be great if we could get to a point where Department of Health, Department of Human Services, EOEL, DOE are all chipping in a bit to pay for this type of mapping and program and service bank. The nice thing is AUW 2-in-1 already has, they have the infrastructure. We don't have to pay for the tech support, the interpretation support, the email support, any of that. That's automatically going to go through 2-in-1, which is great. Same with Patch and DHS. Yes, you go.
Hi, so let me lower my hand now. So I was just reading back on I know that in your mapping strategy draft document, it says that these maps are going to include, it looks like every single type of setting of care. And the reason why I'm asking is because I've been trying to look for how many different types of spaces are available for children and what have you. So I just wanted to make sure that I see on that document, the additional document that you provided, that I want to make sure that all of this mapping effort is going to include all the different types of settings which can serve families. But it looks like that's correct. Am I correct?
That is correct. There is one thing that I would like to discuss with the board around particularly the public pre-K seats and the charter seats and how we count those and where that data should be. But I want to do that after we get through the budget. Yeah, thank you, Yuko. Kayulani.
Aloha. I just had a clarification, I guess is more of what it is. So the timeline that you're referring to is the 6 months that we're looking at. You're under the assumption that we would be able to get the funding and hire a coordinator. And then from that point, it would be 6 months, or is that included in that timeline?
That's included in this timeline.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
And that matches, we did check with DHS, and Dana Luca, if you want to chime in, we checked with DHS and Patch also on their timeline for their own maps. And it sounds like they're looking at December, January also. So the nice thing is it's all lining up right now anyway. We'll see once we get going, but timeline wise, it seems like we're all relatively in sync.
Carrie, I think the other thing that comes to my mind is, and maybe you said this and I just missed it this time, but in some email conversations we've had, the members of the subcommittee include, for example, the Center on the Family. They are also seeking funding. This is not strictly an ELB effort, correct?
Correct. I mean, we would like to, it's good for us to look at overall cost, right? So we'd want to add that 116 plus 88,735. The reason that we're not asking for the full amount today is because Center on the Family is still in their current grant. I think it was from Hawaii Community Foundation. And so that's one reason. But the second reason is Barbara's really trying to get that indirect down. And so we didn't feel confident asking to approve those particular funds just yet. But they're fully developed. What they need is the ongoing costs for what they've developed. So there's less urgency around the development on that piece and more urgency on the development of the other pieces. If that makes sense.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see the chat. So are there any other questions in the chat?
There is Erin.
Hi.
Hi.
I just decided right now to go look at Keiki Central. I am wondering how much influence is this? It doesn't seem to have a specific section that's geared towards early. It says prenatal to 8. But when I click on them, like I don't see home visiting in there or like the different settings. So I'm guessing those things are going to change is what I'm trying to understand. It's not necessarily supporting what exactly is there currently, but then it's going to expand what is currently listed.
Yeah, so don't look at Keiki Central right now. There's going to be a totally different interface that pulls from their new, so AUW replaced their entire back end data with Salesforce. So a totally different API and a different platform. What you're looking at for Keiki Central is pulling from old data. So we need to remove that. We have a beta that's being stood up right now, but it's not public. So yes, so you will see all the home visiting programs. You will see all the early intervention programs. You will see family child interaction learning programs. And then anything related to childcare will be referred to Patch and to DHS through a link, because they're going to be housing the specifics around center-based care and home-based care. So yeah, please don't look at Keiki Central right now.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
You're welcome. It's a good question. And Site Savvy is the entity that would be helping to develop that pullout from Salesforce, because they're doing this for Aloha United Ways around the nation. So they know how to do it really well.
Any other questions about the budget? Right, Carrie, if not, you want to go ahead and make the motion to approve the expense budget as presented and clarify which parts we're voting on, just so that people are very clear.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to approve the Early Childhood AUW Keiki Central project funding proposal to the total amount of, what's 116 plus 86? Someone should have this total.
Are we, a question for me, are we approving the Center on the Family Map project before, I mean, this amount before you have the conversation?
I guess that's a question for the board. Do you want us to come back with a reduced indirect with a final amount? Or do you want us to approve now with the expectation there'll be a percentage decrease in indirect? I guess either way.
I think it'd be better to approve the full, make a motion that approves the full budget, because you can always phrase it sort of in an up to amount. There are ways to bring down that indirect amount.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Then I make a motion to approve the budget, the proposed budget to include AUW Keiki Central and Center on the Family proposed budgets for 2 years.
Is there a second?
Sorry, that's really clunky.
Is there a second?
Second, Bob, this is Melody.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion about the budget as presented and the proposal to approve?
Just a quick clarifying question, maybe if possible, Carrie, would you put this out kind of in the same way you've done some of the other, like, I don't know, co-generated projects, like put it out to the funders group? Or how, I guess, how will, even though we're approving the budget, obviously we as ELB we don't have the power to automatically raise the money. So I'm just trying to think about how does that all happen? I know that it says the ELB and the committee would work on doing the fundraising.
It's a good question. I don't know about the how on the ELB side. I'm not sure any of us have that quite figured out. I think one viable way on the philanthropic side is to bring it to the early childhood funders hui. We do have 100,000 already committed. And so it's just raising the additional funds beyond that one initial 100,000. And then how Early Learning Board helps fundraise, I'm not exactly sure. But that would be our first step.
Justina, does that answer your question?
Yes, that's perfect. That's kind of because it's a little uncharted territory on this one, right? So just to clarify, thanks.
It's an area that we need the finance committee to convene and really do some thinking together about. But at this point, we approve the budget separately. We're saying we're okay that this isn't a fine amount for this particular project. The second action item is to approve the seeking of private fundings by the subcommittee as they have requested. We are approving nothing beyond those two items.
Right.
At this point.
Bob, is that two separate asks?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And just as an aside, Carrie, I know you may be going to bring this up. I am in conversation with the Deputy Attorney General in charge of education with regard to our ability to just move forward with a third party seeking these funding. Are there any mechanisms or procedural items that we need to follow in this process? But we don't have a response to that yet.
Okay, thank you for asking those questions.
Okay. I think if there are no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and do the roll call. Are there any in the chat? I absolutely cannot see the chat. It's too far away and it's not on my screen. So I don't know.
I just asked a question. It has nothing to do with the budget. So that's one thing.
Okay.
But I was just, because you had asked, is there any further discussion or questions? And so I was just wondering, you know, the final product, where will it be? Like, where will it be housed?
Okay.
Will people be able to link to the, will people be able to, will us as an entity all be able to have access to the final product?
Carrie, I'll turn that back to you to answer.
Sure, that's a great question. So anybody can link to, there's going to be 4 maps and anybody is going to be able to link to those 4 maps. Where they will be housed, DHS will house their consumer ed website that will have a map that lists childcare and childcare facilities, home-based and center-based. And then Patch will have their list, and that I have some follow-on questions for the board related to that. And then AUW 211 and Keiki Central are going to be working together, but there'll be 2 different. Most likely it'll just be Keiki Central because that links to the back end of AUW 211. And then we have Center on the Family. Center on the Families is going to be much more policy focused, less public facing in the way that Barbara talks about it. But everybody will be able to have access to these products.
And my understanding is you will be able to link from one
Correct.
point to another, correct?
Correct.
Carrie, if
Yeah.
I could just add, since Yuko wasn't here at the beginning of the conversation, this whole thing came about because of the separateness of all the information. So the whole process, it's completely embedded that it's both reciprocal and accessible. And by having EOEL staff and ELB members involved with it, it gives that sort of opportunity for many partners to come together. And I'd like to suggest that we add this to your priority list.
And then the only other thing I want to share too that I think is important is we've been trying to be really mindful about the providers. These types of resource banks are really hard to maintain if partners aren't participating and providing their data and information. And so making sure that our center-based providers and our family childcare providers have one data entry that will populate DHS and Patch is really important. Making sure that our other programs and services beyond childcare have one application or one update form to do, and then it populates, really important. And so the nice thing is we've worked that out. We've generally worked that out in the back end. DHS and Patch are having that conversation as we speak.
Yuko, did that answer your question? If there are no other questions in the chat, I'm going to take the roll call vote now. We are being asked to approve the full budget as presented for the EC mapping project. Do the roll call, Lonnie,
Aye.
Justina, Justina, you lose it? I'll continue and I'll come back. Aaron,
Aye.
Lonnie,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
I vote aye. Mari still hasn't joined us, correct? Carrie,
Aye.
Melody,
Aye.
we'll come back up. Justina,
Christina is included in the chat.
She's,
what?
Her audio is not working, but she put I.
She put aye on the chat. Okay.
yes, thumbs up too.
Okay, thanks, Justina. So the budget as presented has been approved.
Great, thanks, everybody.
Well, congratulations for all the hard work you folks have done to get to this point. So the second action item, Carrie, would you like me to phrase what I thought it should be? Or do you want to do it?
Sure, I will do my best. So I'd like to make a motion to use private funding to get this work started. I'll leave it at that. I mean, with the intent that we will partner with public entities to help co-fund. I mean, that's the intention, but is that intention required for the vote?
The part of the vote, I think, has to be that the subcommittee is seeking private funding to finance the costs.
Okay,
That's what the board is approving of.
okay. So I'd like to make a motion to allow the subcommittee to seek private funding to move this work forward.
And that way, if any public monies come in,
Yeah.
somewhere, we can use them as well. Right, is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. Any discussion? We've covered a fair amount of this ground around the topic of private funding already, probably in our conversation. Carrie, is there anything, or Lonnie or Ben, that you want to add with respect to the public funding?
Lonnie, what do you think?
Well, just that I think there should be public funding, but there's timelines. So I think that this is a fantastic opportunity for both collaboration, but also we've been working on this a really long time and we're really ready to do it. And the fact that private funding will make it possible, I think is an opportunity we should seize.
Thank you, Lonnie. Anyone else? If there's no discussion, then we move forward to take a vote on the proposed subcommittee request to seek private funding. Lonnie,
Aye.
Justina,
Aye again. Aye.
oh, good, glad you're back. Erin,
Good.
Aye.
okay, yeah, Lonnie,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
I vote aye. Carrie
Aye.
and Melody.
Aye.
All right, the approval has been given by the board for the subcommittee to seek private funding to fulfill the budget for the early childhood mapping project. Thank you to that subcommittee for all its hard work and its continued work. Carrie, you said you did want to round out things with some talk about what lies ahead, I think.
Yep, please. I'm gonna do one more screen share. And this goes to, it's a question for the board, and I don't really know the answer on this. And I'm not sure we're gonna get to the answer on this, which is fine. I just think it's something we need to pay attention to, is when we think about, one of the benefits of this opportunity is data, and being able to know where all of our seats are across the state. And so one of the conversations we've been having is Patch and DHS collect all of the community-based childcare data, right, on where seats are in our center-based and home-based programs. EOEL collects public pre-K where our seats are. Charter collects charter, and then we have Head Start also. But I think Head Start is actually included in Patch, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah, thanks, Ben. So what we were trying to figure out is there a way that public pre-K and charter could share that type of data with Patch so that we have one data set in the state in terms of where the seats are? And I don't know what that entails. I don't know, but it makes more sense to have it in the Patch database than in the Keiki Central database, because we aren't going to list the public pre-K sites separately in Keiki Central. It'll most likely kick back over to the EOL website. So that's just something we've been grappling with. Does anybody have any comments about that?
I have a question.
Yep.
What kind of data are you asking for?
Just seat availability. So well, it's a good question. Right now, the workforce data is split between Patch, UEL, Department of Education, and Charter Pre-K, if we're talking about early education, right? Or childcare. We're also, the data is split around seats, where the seat, what seats are available across the state. And if we're doing this mapping, the DHS website and the Patch website are not going to reflect seat availability in public or charter. And so we're just wondering, is there an opportunity for us to put all of that data into one place? And it wouldn't be identifiable data. It would be de-identified.
Is that
So I have a question, Carrie.
Yeah.
Of Melody. So what I'm looking at is we're still talking about licensed or regulated childcare preschool. What's up here, it does not include where FCILs are in communities or where home visiting programs are in communities.
So FCILs and home visiting would be here in the Keiki Central.
Okay, this is where they are. Okay.
But you're right. We need to add that specifically, but that's we were just talking about the drop off childcare seats, and that data is all over the place.
I'm going to bring this to a close now, Carrie, because of the other things we have on the agenda. So we can come back around to have conversation at some point if the committee would like to bring this back.
Sure.
From the board. All right. Thank you.
All right, thanks everybody, and thanks committee members.
Yes, great work. This was one of our original projects from after we first became a board. So to see it finally become a reality is really fascinating and great to see. All right, we're going to continue with the subcommittee reports, and The Workforce Equity Subcommittee has an update, as well as a discussion a bit about the apprenticeship pilot program. Justina, I'll turn it over to you to launch this conversation.
Okay, thank you, Bob. My role mostly in today's meeting is to get out of the way because we're actually going to have updates from fellow committee members. So first you'll hear from Terry Locke, who helps to lead the Hawaii Early Childhood Educator and Excellence and Equity Project. And then we also wanted to have some time to hear about one of the innovations around workforce supports. And so Melody Vega and also Carolyn Soga from Honolulu Community College have recently come back from a apprenticeship conference that they will share a little bit more about some of the pathways that could be done through apprenticeship programs. And before I turn it over to Terry to kick us off, the other thing our subcommittee has been discussing a lot is just the many conversations right now that have been about the expansion of early learning and early childhood spaces, and sometimes how challenging it has been to work into those conversations, the importance of workforce and some of the key strategies and issues. So in light of that, we want to work more deeply on doing some actual talking points around that issue. But in the meantime, I am going to drop in just a very short PowerPoint deck that has some key messaging around workforce and compensation that if you find yourself in those conversations as early learning board members, just as members of the community, you could draw from that in those conversations. So I'll post that as soon as Terry starts talking. And with that, I'm turning it over to you, Terry. Thank you.
Aloha, everyone. Good to see all of you. I want to share a set of slides so we can use this time so you can focus on some of the things that we're working on. So let me share this. Okay, so this afternoon, we have an opportunity to just give you a brief update on where the Early Childhood Educator Excellence and Equity Project is, just a number of things. Some of you have seen some updates from me in other meetings, like our last HCYC meeting. What's different about this presentation, as Justina mentioned, is we really want to also focus on the apprenticeship program and what that really is. So that's why I'm so glad that both Caroline and Melody will be able to present with me. So yeah, we only have about 20 minutes. So I want to just really kind of show you that this is our set of how our time is going to be. Okay, and of course, we're aware of our state quality workforce development plan and know that the project is really focused on a number of these things, but in particular, the career pathways and the compensation. And what's interesting is the apprenticeship model really covers all three. It's both a pathway, it looks at ongoing professional development and training, and as well as compensation and advances in terms of wages. So want to just step back just a little so you know that apprenticeships is one of our projects. It's a big project just because, again, we're piloting this for the first time in our state. That's why we're so happy that we're able to use some of our resources towards that. We're continuing to look at multiple pathways, prior learning assessments, those kinds of things. I want to spend a little time talking about our BED and ECE birth through 8, and a little bit about of course, our student support strategy that we're working on now, and then our compensation, and then turn it over to Caroline and Melody. So yeah, so our student ambassador program, we know that our students really need various kinds of supports. And so we had launched a student ambassador program with part-time student assistants who actually were early childhood education, they're in the early childhood education program or have recently graduated, and they're located at 4 of our community colleges, which houses our early childhood education programs. So Han CC, Kauai Community College, Maui College and Hawaii Community College. And these students work part-time and they help other students. So it's like a peer mentoring program. They are available to help students with registration or financial assistance information, sometimes even setting up study sessions, and also doing some recruitment as well as reminders to students. And then I want to tell you that we've been working on the curriculum for our bachelor's degree in early childhood education, birth through 8. We're building on there is definitely a need for strengthening our workforce. This also builds upon the research that's there and available for us. This particular bachelor's degree will be a statewide competency-based program that we're working on articulation agreement. We're going to be working on an articulation agreement with the community colleges. And right now, in terms of the curriculum, we're looking at how do we ensure that we're focused on infants and toddlers, non-traditional students, serving all children, that the program teaches educators to work with all children, and that we're creating equitable and high quality environments, and finally, culturally relevant coursework. And related to that, we're working this summer, and there's a task force between the College of Education and the community colleges. And we're working on a task force to look at our curriculum together so we can really develop that pathway. So that means those who are coming through the community college will move up through it, hopefully 2 years, and then everything will be scaffolded up until they get to their bachelor's degree. So we're examining our courses and our student learning outcomes and so forth and so on. So that's what's happening this summer. And then, of course, many of you were invited to our or know about our RAND study on compensation. So currently, the data has all been collected. The RAND research team is now assembling and analyzing all the data, and they conducted focus groups, surveys, informant interviews, and then we had 2 interactive workshops in May that was related to discussing wage and compensation policy models and also financing strategies. And then the report will come out in July. So I just want to highlight that. What's interesting is apprenticeships also came up as one of the key strategies in terms of a policy model. Okay, so now I want to turn this over to Caroline first, and then she'll later also turn it over to Melody. Thank you.
Aloha, everyone. I'm Caroline Soga. I'm the ECE program coordinator at Honolulu Community College. I also work very closely with the Program Coordinating Council in Early Child Education. So I work with all of the community colleges that have early child education together. So although I'm here representing HON-CC, this is a pilot, and I talk a lot with the other CCs and with the hope of possibly expanding this to statewide in the future. So I'm here to talk a little bit about EC apprenticeship programs in general, and then just talk about how some of the grant initiatives we're doing right now are supporting the development of EC apprenticeships in Hawaii. So we have been working with Keikioka Aina and In Peace leaders and staff to develop apprenticeship programs. And for those of you that don't know, apprenticeship programs is like a residency where somebody who comes in as an apprentice can get on the job training while they're working, and then also get what we call related technical instruction. And then they are mentored as they're doing the on-the-job training, mentored or coached. So that's the person that's making sure that their skills and competencies are being met. And then it also helps them move along a career pathway. So as they are moving along this career pathway, they meet certain milestones after they complete certain related technical instruction or on-the-job training, and then they get a wage increase and a position change, and then it moves through. So it really nicely packages everything that's a lot of our programs already have. So I think what makes our apprenticeship program quite unique and innovative is that we are really closely partnering and collaborating together, the higher education, which is us, and then the employer organization, so In Peace and Kikioka and Aina, and really talking about how we can work together to support these apprentices. So the apprentice really meets the needs of the employer because they know what their competencies are needed for each part of their program. And so they can communicate that with us, the higher education, and we can talk together about how we can support those competencies, whether they'll be met through the on-the-job training portion or whether they'll be met in the related technical instruction. But the employer takes an active role in designing that pathway in the program design. And so it's not like you're just doing the regular standalone courses, but we're actually working together to do curriculum development and really program development. You can do the next slide now. And so there's a lot of work that goes into the apprenticeship program. And because all of us are so new to apprenticeship, we're kind of taking it step by step and learning along the way. And so as Terry mentioned, through this grant, luckily, 5 of us were able to go to the first ever National ECE Apprenticeship Conference back in March. And so 2 staff members from In Peace and 2 staff members from Kikioka Aina, as well as myself, we all went together as a team, like Team Hawaii ECE Apprenticeship. And it was really interesting to hear about it's about 24 other states, I believe, that have ECE apprenticeships in place. So we got to learn about all the different types of apprenticeships that support directors, family childcare, home visitors. I mean, really every type of apprenticeship, and really hear about how they are blending fundings from different resources and really just kind of pulling together all the resources that they have in one form of apprenticeship. So I think we've learned a lot from them. And I really truly believe that even though we're so new to it, the model that we're developing is really innovative because it not only takes into consideration those pieces, but a real cultural component as well. And so just last week, actually, Honolulu Community College offered Building Bridges, the design and delivery of adult learning events in early child education. And this piece is about building capacity in terms of those who want to move into teaching more, coaching more, mentoring more. And it fits into the apprenticeship model because you have to have people that are doing more related technical instruction or on the job training support. And so directly out of this, we did have several people from In Peace and several people from COCA participate in it, but already next week, we're going to be offering PACE 140, which is an accelerated summer course. And somebody that was in that Building Bridges from In Peace will be teaching that to the In Peace and COCA staff members. And so we're already seeing how quickly it's building that capacity. And we're really excited about that because she will also be able to inform PACE 140, how's that course design looking? How did it work for the staff and everything? So that will build that piece. And we are piloting a mentor teacher pilot program. So as I mentioned, each apprentice has a mentor that watches them. And mentor is also a skill that not all of us come with naturally, and there's not much training programs. So we will be piloting a mentor teacher pilot program where we'll be cohorting 10 mentors on the state of Oahu, the island of Oahu, sorry. And they will have our practicum students, and they'll meet monthly and they'll receive training and support each other. And so also there's one In Peace and one COCA mentor that will be a part of that. And so they will hopefully then be able to move on to the apprenticeship programs and support the apprentices there. And then finally, the next exciting thing that we have going on is in the fall, we will be offering ECED 158, which is Introduction to Hawaiian Culture for Young Children. And the faculty member that will be teaching that is somebody also from Building Bridges and In Peace. And so she will be working very closely with us to design and integrate the curriculum, because we know she works for In Peace, and they already do a lot of work around supporting Hawaiian culture based curriculum for young children. And so we are excited to learn from her and integrate that into our curriculum and make it available not just for those that are in Hawaiian culture based programs, but everyone that's in the state of Hawaii. So those are our current grant initiatives and our work for the apprenticeship. And I'm going to turn it over to Melody.
Aloha. My job right now is to just give you kind of a boots on the ground description of what the apprenticeship program is potentially could look like within an organization. So the first slide that we put together is about all those involved. And I thought I would just define when you talk about apprenticeship, there's a sponsor of the apprenticeship program and the employer. And so I thought I'd just define these because COCA's intention is to be both the sponsor and the employer. So a sponsor is responsible for administering the program. The employer provides the on-the-job training with the comparable wage scale, and the apprentices will be able to move through a sponsored apprenticeship program that way. Another player is HCC. They will be our higher education instructional provider for this pilot, and we will be part of placing ourselves in the workforce system. And the Department of Labor, they are the registration agency for apprenticeship programs. So our application process actually has to go through and be approved by them. These are the components of apprenticeship that COCA so far has kind of identified and begun to develop. So we have complete involvement, as Caroline mentioned. We, as the employer, are completely involved in the apprenticeship program piece, and also as the sponsor. We will be providing or assuring that there's 2,000 hours of structured and supervised on-the-job training for each one of the apprentices, and that there will be approximately 144 hours of related training and instruction, as well as the rewards or incentives for skills gained and milestones achieved. At the end, and I should have actually also added this because we kind of updated our pathway. Our apprentices, oops, we missed that slide, will receive an ECE credential, which is the CDA credential, as well as the ECE credential from Honolulu Community College, and a national apprenticeship registration or program credential. This is going to be the pathway that COCA is looking at potentially. Yes. So a projected pathway will kind of look like this. Our people will come in, and being a sponsor, we can actually sponsor apprentices from all other programs. Our FCIL programs within our workforce system, as well as other center-based programs. COCA has both FCILs and center-based programs within our organization. So apprentices will come in as pre-apprentices. They will complete first aid CPR and complete a licensing requirements packet, which means registry, application, fingerprinting, and all the other things that come in, medical forms and everything else that you have to do in order to begin your work in a childcare center. We establish a starting wage at that point, and then they move through the apprenticeship program. So the first year will be the first milestone, or actually the second milestone, because they've come in at that starting point. And that's where they receive their 120 clock hours of training through our higher education partner, which is Honolulu Community College. And in the meantime, they're getting their 6 months of working in the center-based program, or as well as the FCIL program, either one. And they will apply for their CDA credential. And by the end of that year, we hope that they will obtain their CDA credential, but as soon as that happens, they will have achieved milestone 2. With every milestone is increased compensation and possible increased position within their workplace. The second year, the apprenticeship program will provide, again, in partnership with HCC, additional credits, and we hope that within that year they will be able to obtain their ECE certificate. It really means something when we talk about the milestones, because we don't want people to have to wait so long before the next time they achieve some type of educational qualification. So we're trying to break it down enough so that they get enough incentive to continue to pursue. And then the third year with the apprenticeship is hopefully by that year they've completed all core credits. And remember, this is includes on the job training, any training we provide that's comparable to what HCC provides. And we put that all together, and they've complete their math, English, any of those electives that have to be completed in order to get an AA degree. Before then, they're already working because they obtained the CDA credential. So they're working as a teacher or teacher's aide in a classroom. And so by the time they get their AA degree, that's milestone 4. Within the apprenticeship, that's the highest level of wage scale, which within the apprenticeship. And hopefully by then they're ready to pursue a bachelor's degree. And then the one thing that I was going to mention, and I didn't see it in the slides, is that Keikioka Aina, in preparing for the apprenticeship program, has a pilot, a mentor. We applied to be a mentor and part of the mentor pilot. So we do have a mentor there. We had 3 of our staff go through the building bridges. So we have trainers now within the agency. There we go. And we have 8 staff taking the accelerated summer school course. And so we're kind of right there. And I think this is all part of being, diving into seeing how this works. We're right there in this pathway right now. So that's our boots on the ground experience so far. And thank you to Caroline and to HCC for the opportunity to attend the conference, to Terry for helping create the pathways. And so I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the future.
All right, now we want to just turn it over to the Early Learning Board if you have any questions for us. Yeah, this is the first time we're really presenting on giving a deeper look at the apprenticeship model. And if you have any questions for us, again, we're learning as we do it. And we are grateful that we're able to use the funding from the project to help support this. Any questions?
Wonderful. And I will leave it to Bob to tell us just time check wise, because I do know we have one other subcommittee report. So we may have to hold off on questions. But Bob, what do you think?
I think you can steal a little time from the leadership update if you want.
Okay.
If there are questions.
Thank
Because
you.
this is an exciting new move forward. And if people have questions, let's take advantage of the opportunity.
Well, I see Carrie put in very exciting in the chat, but I don't see any questions yet.
Okay. And maybe people need time to digest.
There's one question from Ben. Go ahead, Ben.
Hey, real quick. Yeah, this is really exciting. Is there opportunity for other providers or programs to become sponsor agencies or participate in this? And if so, how would they be able to move forward with that?
If you're referring to participating, like with making use of our grant initiatives for moving towards apprenticeship, you can just contact me. You know, I can include you then in all of our pre-work for apprenticeship. And that could include things like, you know, when we went to the conference together. Also, I didn't mention, but this accelerated PACE 140 class is being completely paid for free by the grant. So materials and coursework, and it's a part of the apprenticeship because it's an accelerated model in the summer, and it's statewide actually because it's synchronous online. And then we're trying to prep them through because by this summer, we're going to be developing 263 and 264, which is a curriculum course, but it's going to be Hawaiian culture based, and we're going to offer it next summer for free. So we're trying to get as many people along finishing certain prereqs so that come summer we'll have a nice cohort to have that done. But yeah, so if you're interested in just participating and partnering anyway, just reach out to me and we'll see what we can do.
Also, Ben, I can tell you that the registered apprenticeship programs, you apply through the Department of Labor, and it's an application process. They approve that, especially for the sponsor organizations. So it is pretty intensive application process. We're actually not complete with it. We hope to be done by the end of the month. Caroline and I are kind of hoping for that, but it is kind of an intense process. In the end, though, whatever organization, which we could have 1, 2, 3 organizations as a sponsor, this is what I wanted to share. The employer part is always, employers can always use their organizations as on-the-job training organizations, and the apprenticeship piece can run through the sponsoring organization. So that's why there's that opportunity to have either or both. Yeah. So that I think is the advantage that we have if just 1 or 2 organizations, 1, 2, 3 organizations. I believe Head Start Kauai was a registered apprenticeship program way back when, because the Department of Labor let us know that when we were applying.
Right, I think I am going to cut out questions at this point and suggest that if anyone has additional questions, they can contact Terry or Justina to connect you with the appropriate folks. Caroline, I assume you're available for questions, and Mel, I suspect you would be as well. So thank you very much for sharing that exciting opportunity. And since workforce is one of the priorities of the key period, it's nice to know there are some new ideas being offered. Thanks, Carolyn, for your information out of reach and for joining us today. Terry, thank you too for continuing this work, and we want to hear updates on how it goes. Great. Right. Ben, since you've just shut your mic off, you can turn it back on because it's now your turn to report on the strategic implementation subcommittee.
Thanks, Bob. I'll be brief. Our subcommittee was able to meet last week, Thursday, and our meeting really consisted basically of just kind of orienting logistical figuring out meetings and whatnot. Also, our group is reaching out. I'm reaching out to a few other agencies to also be part of the committee, since we are charged with monitoring and providing support to the state plan and the implementation of Act 46. So we have another meeting next week, Thursday. From there, we'll probably be figuring out when our monthly meetings are. Right now, our group is, I think, around 12. So it's rather large, and I suspect that as we move through the year as a subcommittee, there might be opportunities to do smaller work groups depending on what comes out of our subcommittee. So I want to thank the members that were there last week and look forward to next week's meeting too on Thursday. That's all I got, Bob.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Thank you for taking on this committee. As the committee is being stood up, there's an effort to clarify its charter, what it actually will look like, and how we will connect with some of the ongoing initiatives. And I thank you for leading that particular charge and for those who have joined the subcommittee. Anyone have a question for Ben before we move on? I didn't see anything popping up, so let's move to item number 6. Wayne is going to share with you, give you an update on his activities, the connection with the school facilities folks, or I should say folk at this point, since there seems to be only one person. Wayne, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. So the things that I've done from the last time, so this is an update. We met with Chad Keone-Farias, who's the executive director of the School Facilities Authority. So Yuko, along with myself, reached out to him and started a conversation regarding the appropriation contained in House Bill 2000, which provides the SFA with $200 million to spend on expanding access to pre-kindergarten in the state over the next 2 fiscal years, or well, over the next fiscal year. So that's until June 30, 2023. But it can be extended for an additional fiscal year to June 30, 2024, if all the $200 million are not expended by the end of the upcoming fiscal year. So just for point of information, Mr. Farias was just recently confirmed as the new executive director of the SFA this past legislative session. And so consequently, Mr. Farias is new to the job and working to stand up the SFA as a functioning state authority right now. So our conversations with him have been mostly relationship building, and we're learning about what the SFA intends to do in the future with its appropriation. And Mr. Farias reported to us that he's working closely with the SFA board to determine a plan for how the SFA intends to spend the House Bill 2000 appropriations in the future. But he communicated to us that he intends for the SFA, or at least himself, to be in close contact with both the executive office and the ELB, so that the intention at least is that we will have an influence and say as to how those funds will be directed in the future through the SFA's board. So the recommendation is to continue working with Mr. Farias so that we can have a direct impact indirectly as to how those resources are going to be distributed and allocated throughout the state. And then another thing that we've done over the interim was meeting with the newly appointed superintendent of the DOE, Mr. Keith Hayashi. And again, this conversation was mainly for relationship building and introducing ourselves to the new leadership team at the DOE so that we could explore the ways in which the EOEL, ELB, SFA, and the DOE could work together in a mutually productive way so that we can support better outcomes for everybody, all of the different agencies and authorities. And the DOE superintendent communicated to us at least that he's open to working with both the EOEL and the Early Learning Board collaboratively. So if there's anything that the EOEL or the ELB feels that they would like to discuss with them, you can bring that to my attention or to Chair Peters' attention, and then we can reach out to the DOE and set up a conversation, or begin some type of working relationship to try to address, or start working on some matters that you might have in your mind or envision at this particular time. And we've also met with Robin Chun and Terry Locke from the university, and the conversation mainly pertained to understanding how these workforce development issues continue to challenge the entire system. And we've gained insight into how these challenges fit into the early learning system, and how that presents additional challenges to the entire system going forward to the future. So a better understanding of that was very helpful. So the quick takeaways that I've had, at least based on my conversations and the materials reviewed so far, is that the SFA presents an important opportunity to get up to $200 million invested in the early learning system in the state, which is a significant investment that should not and maybe cannot be passed up, despite all of the other aspects that the system needs at this particular time. The SFA has within its disposal an unusual array of statutory tools and authorities that you don't see popping up with a lot of the other state agencies that are involved with development of state properties. So it's in the best interest of the Early Learning Board and the EOEL to work as closely as possible with the SFA, so that the SFA can use its authority to expedite the development of and spending of that $200 million in the most effective way possible. So again, the understanding is, while it's not ideal or preferred that the EOEL and the ELB should sprint alongside as fast as the SFA can develop new facilities, so that the thinking would be that if the system can demonstrate that it can use and stand up those $200 million successfully, that it will create an argument or a position for the entire system to assert to the legislature that we were successful in spending that money. So another 200 or 300 or whatever the amount is that's requested can be delivered to the entire system for expenditure in the future. So it appears, and again, it appears that the DOE is more willing, at least based on our conversations at the time, to be in the space of working collaboratively with the EOEL and ELB. So to the extent that you have anything that you think we should propose to the DOE for them to consider, by all means, please communicate that to either Chair Peters or myself, or even Yuko, and then we can try to take it to them and package it and send it on to them in a manner that hopefully gets us a better result in the end. And then I guess the last thing is the things that I'm gonna or intend to explore in the future, at least going forward into the next few meetings, is that there's an understanding that there needs to be a little bit more concrete steps to position the ELB to respond to the legislature's request for a roadmap in the Senate concurrent resolution and the Senate resolution. So I'm intending to kind of take a look at Act 46 and Act 210 and orient that within the state, the early childhood education and learning strategic plan, and see how those things all fit together and tie together, so that it can help inform the roadmap that has to be delivered to the legislature in the next few months at this point.
Yes. Any questions or comments for Lane at this point?
Hey, Elaine,
Right.
this is Carrie. I have several questions that have been asked of us that I'm not clear on. So I'm hoping that you have the answers. The first is, can these facilities, are they only meant to support public programming? So can these facilities also be built to support our community-based programming is one question. So that means off of DOE campuses. So I'll start with that one question.
Okay.
Keep asking.
As far as we understand, based on our initial conversations with Mr. Farias right now, is that it's undetermined because the language of the expenditure language is pretty broad and can, depending on how you interpret it, and because the SFA is acting through his interpretation, and the board of the SFA's interpretation is going to be the primary one that's going to be controlling here. So again, this goes back to the point that I was making, that working closely with him will allow the ELB and the EOEL to kind of shape what that initial interpretation is going to be. But the indications we got from Mr. Farias is that they're going to try, their intention at least is to interpret and understand expanding access to pre-K to eligible children in the state from a facility standpoint means pretty much encompassing both public and private. So I think one of the models that is at least on the table is those facilities in Maili that was developed by KS, where there are several different classrooms, but individual service providers are providing, different service providers are providing different services or service offerings in those different classrooms. So that's definitely on the table as far as we understand it. So it shouldn't be thought, the money shouldn't be thought of as being solely limited to public, public development. So only a EOEL pre-K or a DOE, campus is going to be in the, the thought process of the SFA at this time.
Okay, thank you very much for that. That's helpful. And then we are only talking centers, correct? We're not talking home-based facilities.
Again, it goes back to the, the earlier thing I mentioned, which was the language is open to interpretation. So their interpretation is going to be the first pass at it. But as far as we understand it, because there's three things: construction of new facilities, reno and improvement and expansion of existing facilities. And the third catch-all is any other costs the SFA deems appropriate to increase pre-K student capacity within the state. So Mr. Farias has, wisely observed and concluded that construction of the new facility within one fiscal year is probably out, probably not going to be accomplished. So we're really looking at 2 and 3, but mostly, the third part. So other costs that the SFA deems appropriate, again, that's going to come down to their interpretation of what's appropriate and what's connected to expanding, capacity. But to the extent that we work closely with them, I think we can influence, what that means. So the way that I've been thinking about it, at least conceptually, is, for example, if you were to renovate or improve a pre-K pre-K classroom on a DOE campus, that if there was a need to, reconfigure the parking lot for, expanded access or better traffic flow, and you could tack that on as a number 3 item, because that would be part of the SFA deeming it appropriate to increase pre-K capacity by making it easier for more people to access that particular property. So again, it just becomes more flexible as you get more creative with, what really, falls within the scope of expanding pre-K capacity.
Great. And then my final question, thank you, is does the SFA have a set, what's the goal for the number of seats that they're trying to create with this 200 million? Do they have a target?
As far as we know, based on our conversations with them, they do not have a target. The target is whatever can be delivered with $200 million. So if it turns out that $200 million buys 1,000, the equivalent of 1,000 extra seats, that's what the number is going to be. But I think their intention is to push that number as high as possible. So I mean, they're not in the business, and I guess to kind of I don't want to paraphrase them, but I think they're very aware that they want to be cost effective and use this as a demonstration of responsible spending for state resources. So they want to get the best value for that $200 million. So again, it's a competition between a lot of competing limitations, right? The time limitation, where everything is, how many contractors are available to do, X amount of work. But I think trying to layer all of that together, the intention is to get that number and availability to be as high as possible.
Great. Thank you so much.
Any other questions for Lane?
I do have one, and I think it was touched upon a little bit, but I just wanted to see if there's a little more clarity that I could get. So I know that what the language is saying is pre-K. Is that intended to be a little broader, or is that the true meaning of pre-K in regard to not necessarily public only, because I know we touched on that, but even the age range for who would be eligible for that? Do we have any clarity on that?
I think unless other people can, correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of looked through the statutes myself and I didn't see a definition of pre-K. So I understand that there's a definition of kindergarten because that falls within, I don't even know if there's a definition of kindergarten, but I do know that there is that plainly established for the DOE statute. But other than that, the word pre-K doesn't have like a specific meaning attached to it. So again, it's more of an interpretive kind of exercise. And it would be, based on, I guess, convention or, using Google as a dictionary, which would probably lead you to something in the 3 to 4, 3, anything 3 and above to kindergarten. So that's the safe interpretation, but I think it could be broader than that. If you, can find, either we find or other people can find me a support that gives a good ability to reason or, interpret that to be a little bit broader, going down to toddlers or anything younger than that.
Okay, thank you, Lane. Yeah, I think that Carrie's comment in the chat, I agree with that as well. It would really open a lot of opportunities to be able to use that funding effectively if we are able to make sure that that's inclusive of programs prior to kindergarten entry. So thank you.
And I'll just add that I think one of the things that has been brought to our attention is that the SFA is encouraging us, meaning the ELB and the EOEL, to think as creatively as possible, because the fear is that they don't want to be leaving $200 million on the table because we couldn't figure out projects to, be supported by that money. So to the extent that a broader definition will bring them more projects to choose from that will get all of that money allocated and appropriated and encumbered, I think that is the preference, so that they would have more menu of choices rather than less.
It's interesting though, when you read what has come out in the media, the references have been to 3 and 4-year-olds, both from Farias and from the legislators who've spoken about it. So I think the intent is there, but that may not necessarily limit the opportunity. I have a question, and we've talked a little bit about this. Do you think it's premature to invite Mr. Farias to come and speak to the board? Should we wait on that till things are a little bit more moving forward?
I think that to the extent that we can engage him and ask him, hopefully we can maybe have him come in as a agenda item for the next meeting, because I think one of the things that they're running up against is that they want to, hit the ground running. So as soon as July 1 or whenever the funds become available to them, they'd like to start moving. So to the extent that he can come and, have a presentation or a conversation with the board so that you can ask the questions of him directly, that would be probably appreciated by him and the SFA board as well.
Okay. I will put that on our to-do list then to offer the invitation. Any other questions for Elaine before we move on?
I have a process question.
Sure.
So I see Carrie's comment there, but I wanted to know if we wanted to propose or create a set of ideas to potentially propose to the SFA's board. How do we do that? So I don't know how we do that.
Well, it can either go to one of the committees, subcommittees,
Okay.
for a conversation.
Okay.
Probably would be appropriate for the strategic implementation subcommittee.
Okay.
That would be a good place to start.
Okay.
And then bring recommendations back to the board. But I don't see any reason why the director, you,
Yes.
could not come back to us and said, I've been thinking about these things. What's the board's reaction? Use us as a sounding board as well.
Okay, that's great. Because I want to make sure that the early learning board and EOEL propose as many possibilities as possible.
And we want to ensure we're on the same page.
Yes.
So, certainly use the subcommittees for seeding ideas, if that's a good place.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't work for you, then bring them to us and we'll put them on the agenda. As long as they're on the agenda, we can have conversation. Okay, I'm going to move on then. Lynn, thank you very much and appreciate your work and the efforts that you're putting in and keeping on top of all of this. The next item on the agenda is a leadership update, which is basically my report. It's going to be very brief. I want to bring to everyone's attention that the Commit to Keiki forums are still continuing. And there is one on June 13th with the governor candidate Lynn Mariano from 7 to 8 p.m. and another with a second one actually with Mrs. Cayetano on June 14th from 7 to 8 p.m. If you haven't received information about the forums, although I can't imagine you would not have, then certainly go to the committokeiki.org website, and that information is provided for you about those forums and any of the others that are upcoming that you may wish to check out. Remember, these are opportunities to listen to the governor's candidates and to help inform them about the early learning priority we hope they will have. The second item that I wanted, or other items I want to bring up, is some reminders for the subcommittees of things that need to be considered. One for the governance subcommittee is considering the concurrent resolution related to board composition and organization. That needs to be addressed and we need to get started on that. The strategic implementation subcommittee, Ben already referenced this, and Lane has also talked about it, but looking at the concurrent resolution that came out of the session with regard to the roadmap for moving forward with Act 46 and 210. And the Finance Standing Committee needs to have a conversation around funding requests, particularly from subcommittees, and also as we look at moving forward with the state plan. Now, those things are just out there as reminders for folks. Probably the most important part of this leadership update is to say a great mahalo to Lonnie, who has been sitting on the board as the center-based provider seat for the past 2 terms. Lonnie, we've really appreciated your work with us. She has been really instrumental in working on the systems mapping subcommittee, as you can see today, and been a strong voice for the center-based provider in our conversations. So Lonnie, thank you for continuing the foundation laid by others and laying a foundation strongly for the incoming person. Please do remain on our mailing list, our emailing list. I'll keep you there, and hopefully join us for meetings when the opportunity provides. We would love to continue our contact. Also leaving us today, who is not here at this meeting, is Sherilyn Shitinoki, who has been a parent representative on the board. She and Erin have spearheaded the Capacity and Resources Committee, providing some milestone work around the state plan reporting by the office back to the board, and the strong urging for the standing up of the strategic implementation subcommittee, both of which have moved forward because of Sherilyn's helpful leadership in those areas. Board terms seem to end too quickly. Contributions are always so appreciated, and we hope we can continue to have the expertise of board members who lead as continuing members of the subcommittees that they've served on. So Lonnie, mahalo to you from all of us. Do stay connected, and I hope you're going to continue on the systems mapping subcommittee moving forward. All right,
Thanks, Bob.
more than welcome. It's been a pleasure having you in. One of the things that I was most excited about is we've had challenges filling that seat in the past. And Lonnie has stepped up at a time when we really needed your voice here. So thank you very, very much. It's made a difference. All right, I'm going to move on to member updates now. Are there any member updates that people wish to share? Anything in the chat?
Bob, I just put one in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
I'll be out of town for work for the July meeting, and Keiko Nita will be filling in for me and representing DOH and Director Char in July. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Matt. Carrie, I did see yours pop up.
Yeah, I just wanted to post legislative session, update everybody that although early intervention services did receive the additional 3.6 million and some positions, they also had positions cut. And so I think we need to pay attention to when we talk about workforce, that we are keeping track of what we are also losing. And so that was a bit of a disappointment. You know, we got very excited that those increases happened, and then disappointed that they were cut in other areas. So I just wanted to share that.
So Carrie, I can tell you that I plan on submitting budget requests for most of those positions to get them back this coming September when we prepare our Form As. So they'll be submitted to the director to include in the governor's budget.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Carrie. Anyone else have member updates at this point?
I have one quick announcement, and it's really geared towards, I guess, families that would be interested in raising their children in Hawaiian language, but I thought I'd share it here with you all. We did, Ahapuna Leo did start to release video lessons for families that's available on our website for Hawaiian language, centered around raising children in Hawaiian language. So I just wanted to let you folks know that. I can drop the link into our chat. but it might be something that some of your programs or some of your families might be interested in.
Thank you. Anyone else have an update? I don't see anything, so let's move to the second public comment portion of the meeting. Is there any public comment to be offered? I don't see anything coming up. And Jordana, you don't have anything? Nope. Okay. Thank you. And the last item on the agenda is to review the outcomes and then ask Kerry to share with us her good thoughts for this particular meeting. The outcomes that I picked out of the meeting today are Yuko has shared her plans to begin to clarify priorities and has invited board members to contribute any thoughts that they might have beyond what was shared earlier in the meeting today. And the question, remember, she asked is what should EOEL consider as priorities? So if you have input, please do share that with her. The Early Childhood Mapping Project had its budget approved today, and also approved was the Systems Mapping Subcommittee's plan to raise private funds to support that budget. There was some discussion around the flow chart and the type of data to be it would reflect. That's a discussion that we may wish to come back to, so keeping it on our radar. Information was shared about the apprenticeship program, and members were invited to contact Terry Locke, Melody Vega, or Callan Soga if they had additional questions or were interested in becoming a part of apprenticeship programs. Lane reminded us that the SFA funding of Act 2000 is an opportunity that we need to not only take advantage of, but should consider it as a way to leverage future requests for expansion and other efforts around the effective use of legislative funding. And we also have action being taken around the concurrent resolution, looking at the requirements the legislature has asked us to fulfill with regard to the roadmap for Act 46 and 210. Those were the agenda outcomes that I selected. Does anyone have anything else that we should include? Hearing none. Carrie, you have good thoughts for us to close out this meeting?
I do. So I was listening to Kealoha Wong give his graduation address at MIT, which was really great. By the way, it's on YouTube if you want to check it out. And he says, "We are all ancestors in the making. Be the best person you can be."
Thank you. Good words to take with us as we leave today. And thank you, everyone, for not only joining the meeting, but also for the good work and the progress that we continue to make as we construct and refine our early learning system. Have a good weekend. I hope some of you have a 3-day weekend. And Carrie, you've been asked if you can put the quotation into the chat so that we can capture it accurately, please. I think this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Christina, once again, for hosting and inviting us with yummy goodies. Aloha, everyone.
Aloha, everybody.
Uh-huh.